Trigger warning. Viewing the following content may cause intellectual strain and swelling of logical capacity. If you suffer from perpetual rectal discomfort, viewer discretion is advised.
Okay, so one thing I found, and it's a little trending right now, is I would go as far to say high school boys in general, but they are saying 12th grade boys becoming more conservative as girls trend overwhelmingly liberal. Survey finds at the bottom. It says, "We are creating this idea that if you're male, you're bad," says psychotherapist. That's according to Fox News. Now, I also have a statistic from The Hill. And, before I go on to show this and kind of talk about it, I would like to say that what I believe is that we've kind of put this bad image upon young men that it's not good to be masculine. You gotta suppress your masculinity. You don't have to be a man. You have to be more in touch with your feminine self and all that. And on top of that, I feel like Democrats, their priority, the Democratic Party's priority, have been more on kind of making people feel better and gender type stuff, I guess. And men, especially young men, don't particularly care about that kind of thing. As well as young men don't really care about politics in general. But the small amount that does are seeming to lean much more conservative. It's, in my opinion, I believe that they are so fed up of the agenda and the ideology that's been pushed towards them about suppressing their masculinity, and that they should treat girls like queens, and that girls don't need them or something. They're so tired of it that some of these young men don't really know much about conservatism, but they choose to lean right because they rather be as far as away as from the left as possible. It says in this article, in annual surveys over the last 3 years, roughly 1/4 of high school seniors self-identified as conservative or very conservative. On the Monitoring the Future survey, a scholarly endeavor that dates to the 1970s, only 13% of boys identified as liberal or very liberal in those years. And in this statistic, we can see, going back to 1975, we had 25% of 12th grade boys specifically identify as liberal, and 17% identify as conservative. But now we are here in 2022, and 23% of them are identifying as conservative, and it's been a major shift in the past 10 to 20 years or so. We have 23% identifying as conservative, while 13% identify as liberal. Now, on the other hand, we have girls who are now identifying much more liberal than ever. Now, from this statistic, we can clearly see that for the most part, girls have identified as liberal since the 1970s. But now we have 30% identifying as liberal, and we have these, two different ends. They're on the complete opposite, and that's what we're seeing. I think that, guys are really fed up of this, and girls keep buying into this, that, this ideology that they don't need a man and that they don't need men to take care of them and all that, and they're kind of splitting these two apart, which, I know you said to me earlier that, it's probably affecting their relationships and it's having negative effects on that, and I completely agree.
Leave that graph up. Pull that graph back up. There's two things I want to point out about this. First of all, the question is kind of misleading, right?
Yeah.
Because very few people identify as liberal, period.
Yeah.
Today, you're much more likely to have people on the left identify as progressive.
Yes.
Which would translate into very far left liberal.
Yeah.
Liberalism is classical liberalism is the foundation of the United States. It's the idea that individual responsibility and individual freedom are important and should be defended. There's an example. I can't recall the year off of the top of my head, but there were some Nazis that were doing a protest, right? Nazis, actual, not the people that progressive weenies call Nazis today. I'm talking about actual Nazis.
Okay.
All right, and they wanted to do a protest, and the ACLU, which used to be an organization that stood for civil liberties, used to, not anymore, but it used to be, right? They actually defended the organizers of that march.
Nazis.
They defended the Nazis.
ACLU history taking a stand for free speech in Skokie. Document date September 1, 2010. In 1978, the ACLU took a controversial stand for free speech by defending a neo-Nazi group that wanted to march through the Chicago suburb of Skokie, where many Holocaust survivors lived. The notoriety of the case caused some ACLU members to resign, but to many others the case has come to represent the ACLU's unwavering commitment to principle. In fact, many of the laws the ACLU cited to defend the group's right to free speech and assembly were the same laws it had invoked during the civil rights era, when southern cities tried to shut down civil rights marches with similar claims about the violence and disruption the protests would cause. Although the ACLU prevailed in its free speech arguments, the neo-Nazi group never marched through Skokie, instead agreeing to stage a rally at Federal Plaza in downtown Chicago.